March, when the airport was closed in Peru, I was in Italy, and I haven't been able to go back to Peru since March. The Peruvian economy has a 30% of formal companies and 70% of informality. There was assistance, yes, but not. It didn't work the way the government was expecting.
Welcome, Frank Boyle, to Trade Pact's office. Today, I'm happy actually to announce the launching of the Trade Pacts Cafe. It's a blogging or video blogging program which will happily invite trade experts from around the world, like yourself, to tell us how do they see the international trading system from their country, what are the issues they are confronted with, how the public policy perceives the changes which are happening now in the international trading system, but also interestingly how the private sector reacts to what's happening in the, for example, WTO. Or does it know about WTO, or should we be more transparent and inform them more on the system and what can it do for them? So I'm happy to state that Frank has been also a mild student in Bern, just as myself. I think he did this a little bit before me. He's also a graduate from Istituto Universitario di Studi Europei, also where he also looked into international trade law. And now Frank is a partner actually at Estudio Muniz in Peru, which is a very big law firm there, and congratulations for your partnership with this firm. So Frank, tell us a little bit of what brings you actually to Geneva this time, in this actually difficult time where we have a lot of restrictions. I'm happy you came over because there has been some time nobody was actually visiting much. So I'm happy now that you are here and we'll be able to discuss the Peruvian, hopefully, perspective of the things. So tell us a little bit of your journey to Switzerland this time.
Many thanks, Marina, for the invitation. I'm very pleased to be here and to be able to talk to you and express a little bit what's going on about the WTO and trade rules in Peru. What brings me to Geneva? Well, the thing is that since the COVID situation started, I was not able to travel. I'm the responsible for Europe of my firm, so I do travel a lot. I do spend time in planes, and I haven't been able to do that since March. In March, when the airport was closed in Peru, I was in Italy, and I haven't been able to go back to Peru since March. So I've been waiting in Italy, buying new tickets every month, hoping that the next ticket will be valid. Since I saw that the conditions in Europe are improving, so I started organizing new business trips. Switzerland was safe enough, so I decided to do a tour in Switzerland. I started in Zurich, then I passed through Bern. I went to the WTI to visit our friends. Unfortunately, Margaret was on holidays, so I wasn't able to visit her. Anyway, I wasn't at university. It was a fantastic experience. And then I'm finishing here in Geneva. This time in Switzerland, I've been visiting potential clients and business partners, visiting different law firms which we work together or are willing to work together with. So this is what brings me to Geneva.
But before we actually go a bit back to Peru and Peruvian perspective, my curiosity was, how did you choose actually to be in international trade? How did you end up to be practicing this?
Well, I have been always fascinated by international relations, international business. So after I finished university, I was able to join Estudio Muñiz. I started working there as a junior lawyer, but after some time I decided to further my studies. So I went first to Italy to do I got a diploma in international trade law from the Istituto Universitario Studi Europei a Torino. Then I went to Bern to do my master's degree at the World Trade Institute of the University of Bern, and I was lucky enough to get a position in the WTO, a temporary position at the WTO at the Legal Affairs Division. So that was a complement to my studies. So I got involved, of course, in this world of international trade.
How long have you been at WTO?
It was a little more than 1 year.
Now, COVID, I understood you have been stuck basically in Italy.
Yeah.
I'm sure, however, you know well what's happening back home. My question is, how has the economy in Peru reacted to the pandemic, and has there been any support, or what kind of support has the government envisaged in this crisis, either for the citizens or for the companies?
Well, the problem with Peru is that despite the fact that we have a small population, we are only 33 million. If you see the statistics, the numbers of infected people and the number of fatalities are very, very high in Peru, maybe the highest in the world. So whatever has happened in Peru, or whatever the government tried, it didn't work properly. It's incredible that in March, when we didn't have much cases, the government decided to close the economy as a measure of prevention. So since March already, we didn't have airports, we didn't have people going to work. They only allowed essential activities, and all other people would have been stuck at their houses for a period that initially was 15 days. And then it was extended for 15 days, and then again and again and again, and it went all the way up to July. But the problem is that Peru doesn't have a formal economy, or an economy like a war from the First War, an economy from the First War. The Peruvian economy has a 30% of formal companies and 70% of informality. And that informality is not able to survive through long periods of time, because they need to work on a daily basis to get money to buy food. Some of these people were obliged to stay at home, where they are crowded with other family or people non related even. They were asked to wash their hands. Many of them didn't have water to wash their hands. They were obliged to buy food for periods of time, but they don't have like a fridge, a refrigerator. So for these people it was not possible to keep with the rules of the government. So they start going out, and the government was not able to control that. So we had a 30% of formality of the country that was following the rules, but 70% was disbanded. That made that the numbers of infected people start growing very fast, and that didn't. The problem with this is that the government tried to bring assistance to people and company, but since we have a high informality, they didn't know to whom bring this help. For the companies it was easy because they know which companies are, they have a bank account and everything, but for the informal people that's not possible. They don't have bank accounts, so they were forced to open bank accounts. They have to queue to open bank accounts to get the money. While queuing, they were contagion themselves. So it was like a very bad vicious circle, no? So there were assistance, but it has not been canalized in a proper way. There was assistance, yes, but not. It didn't work the way the government was expecting.
But have there been some assistance, some help from the government, maybe some cash per person, or maybe to some companies, small companies? And, I mean, in the formal sector, has this been used at least in that sector?
Yes, yes. The companies had to register, and they were getting loans with a very low rate, and that is guaranteed by the government. So they needed to ask the loans at the banks. So the banks were canalizing the money from the government through to the companies, and then the interest rate is very low. So yes, we have that. Yes.
Now I can move a little bit closer to the international trade rules and WTO, and you of course aware of all the discussions around this organization lately. We first of course had and since quite some time certain criticisms towards inability to complete the negotiation round for many reasons, and with the Trump as president, other things have happened in the WTO, which led now to blockage of the appellate body system. As you know, there is some alternative in place, which countries are joining, but of course not all the countries are party, and they will not probably become party. How do you work in Peru with the private sector, and how do you convey to them the importance of this field of law? Are they aware of what's happening? Of course, things seems to they happen all in a small town like Geneva, but implications, of course, are global. And my curiosity always was if people, if the private sector fully understands the implications of the WTO, of what it does, and if this organization does sufficient awareness raising regarding its importance for the global players and small and big companies. So what is your feeling on this? Are companies interested in WTO? Are they keen to learn? Are they aware of what are the implications of any changes at WTO on their day-to-day activity?
I think there are several questions here.
Yes.
First of all, I always like to stress that it's not Trump that has implemented this policy from the Americans, but this is a policy that has been in place for several years. It's not this president, but also the former presidents that kept the same policy of not electing new officers for the appellate body. So yes, this is the moment in which the policy has had its final result, which is to have no members in the appellate body. But it was not Trump who started this. He's just finalizing it. But this has been a policy for years, and it's unfortunate that the country that more or less designed the system 50 years ago after the Second World War, or more 60, almost 70 years ago after the Second World War, is blocking the system, because the success of the WTO is because the dispute settlement system works. If the dispute settlement system wouldn't be working as it should, then the system then lacks the force that it has had for the last more than 20 years since it was it was 1985, so it's like 35 years. As for the use of the private sector of the WTO, I would say that the WTO is promoting the system in well enough, because I get the information I want, and it's very easy to have access and to be informed about what's going on. But the problem I see is that the governments around the world, not all of them are as interested on making the local population aware of the WTO and its consequences. Unfortunately, Peru is one of them. I cannot see that the officers in the government in Peru are really aware of the WTO, of the rules. You can see the Peruvian Congress enacting laws that go against obligations that Peru has in the WTO or in different free trade agreements. Peru is a clear example of the benefits of multilateralism and free trade and free economy. In 1990, Peru was a very difficult country, and in 1990, a new government decided to open the economy, because before we were a closed economy. We didn't have the right to hold foreign money, in 1990 we opened our economy, and it coincided with the negotiations of the Uruguay round that finalized in the WTO. So at the time, Peru was active in the WTO. Peru was active also negotiating free trade agreements. We have free trade agreements now with many countries in the world, with the most important economies in the world, including the European Union, United States, almost every country in America. With China, we are finalizing a negotiation with India. So we have a group of people that have been really working strongly in making Peru to become part of the multilateral group of countries working on trade. But the general people in Peru and most of the officials in the government are not aware of this. So I think there's a lack of communication in Peru of the benefits of the WTO. As a private practitioner, I suggest my clients, when I see that there are aspects that they can claim through the WTO, and they understand and they are happy to know that they have rights to go further, but the problem is that there's not a mechanism or system in Peru to accept this kind of claims from the private sector, because you need the government in the middle to make the claim. You, as a private, you cannot come to Geneva, go to the WTO and say that other country has made this problem and now I am losing my rights. That has to be your government. But when your government has no rules to force itself to go to make the claim, then you need to lobby. You need to be lobbying governments of the officers of the government to get claims. So Peru sometimes has some claims, but because there has been a heavy lobby from the private sector that is aware of the rights. The general companies, the general people doesn't know, is not aware. Yeah.
So you would say that the bigger companies are more aware of the rules.
Yeah.
I also agree with you that it is up to the government to raise awareness of the system with the private sector, and I also see in other countries that this is not. It's a missing link sometimes, this communication between the government and the private sector. So I think the proper platforms to discuss with the business is the way to inform or to promote also, or to raise awareness of the WTO law, because if you think about it, we as lawyers, we think about the system in terms of rules, and we maybe sometimes get even too much enthusiastic about the rules, and we stay when we look at the rules, but in fact we maybe often forget that these rules are actually made for the benefit of the private sector. So,
Exactly.
in fact, we cannot do. We are talking a bit in the vacuum if we do not convey this to them, or we do not make them understand how this system is actually beneficial.
In fact,
Regarding
I had a case recently. A Peruvian client had a problem because a third country was not allowing a provider of specific products to be sent to Peru because they enacted a rule to for the COVID. They said, "Oh, we need these products as essential in our country, so we are not allowing the exportation of these products to Peru or well, to any country because of COVID. This is an emergency measure." But the thing is that they, the company that was using this as an excuse not to sell, was selling the same products to other countries with a higher price. So we needed in Peru an embassy or an officer to start the complaint, but it was not possible. We didn't get that. We used the Chamber of Commerce and we got to a solution for the client, but there was no official mechanism to make this claim.
By the way, have you been a claimant in the WTO dispute settlement or respondent? Does Peru have? I think it has a number of cases.
Peru, yes, but Peru uses normally international law firms to assist them or the advisory center of the WTO.
Okay, my question was if you're a participant in the system.
No, I
not personal. I mean Peru.
Yeah, yes. Well, Peru is
some countries they don't really, they cannot really use or they do not use the system. So
no, they have used successfully. Yes, Peru has used successfully the system, and but it's not well known in Peru.
So you know now that there are many discussions, or now the hottest thing in town is the election of the Director General of the WTO. I don't know how much you have been following. Today we actually found out that out of 8 candidates, 5 have been confirmed to continue for the next round. In your view, and if you have looked at the candidates, whom do you think WTO members should look to in order to give this important function, considering the type of situation that the organization is now in difficult times?
My favorite candidate is the Korean lady. I'm not sure if she's on the list of those that keep in the
yes,
line.
She continues.
She
yes,
continues.
yes.
Okay, that's good. I think to have a woman in front of the WTO could be a good experience because I don't recall any woman leading the WTO. Then I think would be a good thing for Korea, which is a country that has shown the results and the success of the international trade, of free trades, of being of being a country integrated to the world. So I think she should have the experience and the ideas, the clear ideas to deal and lead the WTO. Yes.
Question is like to what extent it should take on its board, on its agenda, maybe non-trade issues like environment, human rights, and things which originally maybe did not pertain to the WTO.
It's difficult to say because in the end everything is related to business, no? Ecology, environment has something to do with business always. So I think it should be included. The fact is that this may be used as an excuse to affect trade, no? So it has to be something that has to be treated very carefully. But yeah, I think it should be in the table.
Thanks for providing this perspective, and just like me, you have dedicated, it seems, all of your life to international trade, to this profession. And now, if you look back, and given the where we are in the modern world with the technology, innovation, and everything becoming digital, would you have chosen the same profession again, or would you have chosen something else?
No, absolutely, I will choose again. Yes.
So what would you say to for example, students who want to choose this field? Like, why would you choose it again? Why is it so enthusiastic? There is this enthusiasm for you about it.
Well, the thing is that we are all human beings and we live in the same planet. I think that the divisions created that become countries have to decline for the union of everybody, and through trade we are closer. Through open markets, open economies, we get closer to each other. And I think that the recent technologies are helping us on that way. Yes.
It's interesting that indeed with our profession, and I had rediscovered this again during COVID, that it has actually the technology helps a lot people in our profession, because most of the things we do can be done via webinars, in written. Of course, we read and write a lot. So probably we are in the lucky category, because we still can, in the lockdowns, we still can work. So
And the thing
that's
that the
a note
clients
for the students as well who want to practice law in the future.
the clients need us, because COVID has obliged the governments to create a lot of new rules, and sometimes they are contradictory. So you need lawyers to help you to go through them. So yeah, we have been a very lucky category, I think. Yes, absolutely.
So thank you, Frank, for joining us today here, and helping actually to launch the Trade Pacts Cafe, where we'll be inviting other interesting international experts. If you find this video helpful, please subscribe to our channel, share and like if you like it. So I will see you next again very soon. Goodbye.